Hey guys, it's Justin Mack, and I'm back with another video. Today we're gonna go through the UFC Vegas 85 predictions and breakdown. We got Roman Dolidze versus Nasruddin Imavov. But to begin, we're gonna start with the first fight of the prelims: Thomas Peterson versus Jamal Pogue. All right. Now, Thomas Peterson, his last fight was in LFA. Dude looks to start wrestling immediately. Dude has good ground and pound if he can get there. And but the one thing I noticed while rewatching some fights is that he doesn't really look like a 3 round fighter. He has very good potential to gas out quickly if he doesn't get the takedown, but he does have heavy ground and pound. Uh, Again, if you can get him there. But with as far as Jamal Pogue goes, his last fight against Mick Parkin went to a decision. His last 4 fights went to decision, but he won 3 of them. All right, so it's not bad there. But if you look at this guy when he's fighting, the dude looks like a statue. He just does not move his head. This could be a problem for him. To be honest, this fight could end up being a really boring 3 round lay and pray decision for either one of them. But if I were to guess, I'd say Peterson has the more finishing ability and his ground and pound should get done by either TKO in the first or second round. I could see that happening. But ultimately, I honestly see this going to a decision unless they show us something different here pretty soon. Again, they're heavyweights, so it could easily end with one punch. I just don't see it happening. Either way, I got Peterson winning by decision. Moving on up the card, we have Landon Quinones versus Marcelo Medeiros. Landon, he has a good double leg takedown. He's constantly trying to put his opponent on the back foot. He's got good pace and pressure. He fights in southpaw. He's got good kicks. He's decent on the feet, but he looks as if he's always looking for the takedown. He's never really trying to get someone out of there with his striking until he has him pushed, until he has that pace pushed on him. You know what I mean? So that because that pace it'll just exhaust his opponents out to the point where they just leave themselves open to more shots and more takedowns. So, but as far as Marcelo Medeiros, he was looking good off the Contender Series. Beautiful striker, coming off his second knee KO in a row. And I'm so sorry. Yeah, he's coming off his second knee KO in a row. And to be honest, I think he might be able to make it a third knee KO if he plays his cards right. I think he's gonna get it done again by KO. It might not be the knee this time, but I've noticed that Landon can sometimes be willing to eat a few shots to be able to overwhelm his opponents. And if Landon goes in for any type of sloppy takedowns, then we will see this third knockout by way of Medeiros' knee yet again. But either way, I have Medeiros winning by KO in the second round. Moving on up the card, we got Julia that's a hard name. Julia Stoliarenko, okay? And she will be facing Luana Carolina. I don't know why it took me so long to find. But Luana Carolina versus Julia Stoliarenko. I mean, you could flip a coin, right? Shout out to the MMA Guru. You're wrong for that. But let's look into it, guys. Julia Stoliarenko, she's the only fighter on the UFC roster that's from Lithuania with a record of 11-8. Her last fight against Avila, she was getting outstruck on the feet, even though she was throwing back with some heat. Avila was clearly getting the better of her and even ended up kicking her in the face and breaking her nose damn near early on in the fight. As the fight went on, she started to panic wrestle. And to be honest, I just didn't like that. I didn't like what I was seeing from her other than her durability. She does a good job controlling people in the clinch, but as far as turning the clinch into takedowns, she seems to not be the best at it, even though, and she even got reversed and controlled in the second round or on the ground 2 times. She tried to do it again against Avila, but I don't know. I'm just not seeing the best IQ from her, right? So, on the other hand, we have Luana Carolina. She's really technical on the feet. She's got good head movement, and when she's grappling, you can tell she's constantly looking for submissions and to advance her positions. Um, Long story short, I see this fight either going to a decision, uh, or Luana Carolina submits Juliana Stoliarenko in the second or the third. So, yeah, I mean, Julia getting pieced off of the feet, like, yeah, I just see Julia getting pieced up. I see Julia getting pieced up. She's gonna start panic wrestling. She'll probably end up getting reversed and subbed most likely. That's what I'm gonna go with. So, second or third round submission for Luana Carolina. Um, the next fight of the night, moving on up the card, we got Li Jian or Jian Yan Li or Li Jian Yan, depending on where you're from, is how you say it. Apparently, he's facing Blake Bowler, right? So, in Jian Yan, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, but anyways, he looks as if he's trying to manage his distance. Like when he starts the fight, he looks like he manages like his distance pretty well, but I feel like it could come to a deficit because as he's staying away from his opponents and kind of just throwing shots out there, I feel like he commits too much with his feints, and I feel like that could leave openings for Blake Bowler's speed to come in and catch him. Um, Even though like Blake Bowler, he might not have the craziest power that we've seen, but I feel like he has the potential to land that power based off his speed. Dude is so fast. Uh, I mean, let's just get right into it. I mean, we've seen Blake Bowler's last fight. Yeah, he lost by decision to Kyle Nelson, but Kyle Nelson is no joke, man. Like he's a long and lengthy fighter. He does really well striking while moving backward, and we see that in this fight because Blake is just trying to put the pressure on him. He's trying to close the distance the whole time. So I know we all got a bad taste in our mouth because of that, but hear me out. Bowler was looking good in that fight, and he was dealing with Nelson's length very well until he opened up too much at the end of the first round with the huge flying knee that almost had him jumping out of the octagon. Okay. Yeah, Kyle tagged him a bit in that fight, but with some minor adjustments with fighting the lengthier fighters like Li Jian Leon, whatever his name is, he's a little bit lengthier, but not as much as Kyle Nelson, but he's longer and lankier than Blake Bowler, at least. I'm just not impressed with Yan Jian Lee as much as I am with Blake Bowler. So for this fight, I gotta go Blake Bowler via decision. Um, if he doesn't get caught with all that, those crazy feints that game that the crazy feint game that Lee likes to do, that could possibly leave him open. But either way, it's a 145-pound fight. I could see it going to decision, maybe. So on to the next card, we have Charles Johnson replaces Nathan Maness with 4 weeks' notice to fight the 18th ranked top flyweight in the world in Azet Maxim, who is 17-0. So, dude is undefeated. Charles Johnson is currently on a 3-fight losing streak in the UFC. And I believe after this fight, we might be seeing Johnson getting his walking papers here. So, which would be insane because he's helping out the UFC by stepping in this fight after, Maxim's last opponent fell through due to injury. So, by either way, the UFC might be using him to hype up Maxim, considering he doesn't really have any notable wins in the UFC that would really strike anyone's attention yet. So if he gets a win off of Charles Johnson, maybe they can start pushing the momentum with him a little bit more. As far as, whenever you see a guy that's 17-0 in the UFC and is undefeated, if you see the UFC facing him against guys that could potentially continue that record, you gotta think that the UFC has some type of agenda with this fighter, right? So either way, yeah, if they weren't 125 pounds, weighing in the night before, I'd probably be thinking more along the lines of Azat winning by TKO. But seeing as the lightest men's, seeing as they're in the lightest men's division, I'm just gonna have to go with Azat winning by unanimous decision. Moving on up the card, we have the featured prelim of the night in Molly McCann versus Diana Belbita in a rematch. Okay, if you guys didn't already know this, when they had their first fight, it was Diana. When they fought the first time, it was Diana's first fight in the UFC. And when rewatching their first fight, you can tell these women like really look to get it. Like they look to get after it right away, throwing heat, exchanging punches, and but I noticed that Diana is a little bit like she's way more technical, not a little bit. She's way more technical on the feet. She keeps her strikes nice and tight, and what we saw a lot from Molly McCann was just her winging overhands and these looping shots that I feel like Diana, with some very minor adjustments, I feel like she could easily get the better of Molly in that fight rather than how it sort of went down in the first time around to decision. But Molly McCann is definitely the stronger fighter in the first round, anyways. But in the second round, it becomes pretty clear that Babita has what it takes to keep it on the feet. She was defending takedowns and just not letting her do everything that Molly wanted to do with her. She wasn't just being ragdolled out there with the strength of Molly McCann or whatever. And this was a different, younger Molly McCann, as well as, again, it was Belbita's first fight in the UFC. She might have some of those UFC jitters that people are talking about when during their debut. But long story short, I think Belbita has been making adjustments throughout her whole UFC career, and I think she has what it takes to beat Meatball Molly, seeing as she's too technical for her. And lately, I mean, let's be honest, we haven't really been seeing the best out of Molly McCann. And I think that unless Molly McCann can somehow put her out with a heavy strike in the first round, then I see Diana Belbita getting this job done in a close fought decision. Moving on up to the main card of the night, we have Gilbert Urbina versus Charles Radke. Charles Radke, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but he's the one that exposed Blood Diamond, before we knew that he was like just one dimensional as fuck. And it proved to the world that Blood Diamond has a lot of things he needs to be working on before he's UFC ready. I feel like that's what that fight proved to us. Radke, he's got good pressure. He mixes up takedowns and strikes, and dude just has heavy hands, right? When he finally decides to sit down on some punches anyways. But I encourage you guys to look back at that Blood Diamond fight, because Radke hit Blood Diamond so hard in the beginning of the second round that he turned him into a wrestler. Yes, the striking Blood Diamond was turned into a wrestler. All right, had Nate Diaz asking, "Oh, so you're a wrestler now?" Anyways, Radke is a problem to be dealt with. But the guy he's about to face isn't as one dimensional as a Blood Diamond. But all the same, he has losses to some pretty good guys in Sean Brady, the tough winner Brian Battle, and Audrey's MMA favorite fighter Treson Gore. Had to throw that in there. But yeah, I see this being a really competitive fight. I don't see it going the distance. I'm going to go with Charles Radke via first or second round TKO. That is the prediction. Charles Radke, first or second round TKO. Moving on up the card, we have Makhmud Muradov versus the undefeated Alikab Khizriev. Now, I don't think I'm going to need a huge breakdown for this fight in particular. I can see clearly Muradov has a loss to the one and only, the GOAT in GM3, Gerald Mearshart, whereas Khizriev has never seen a loss. I know a lot of people can be swayed too easily by the OV at the end of the name and might not even look at the other guy's record and who he fought. But if you've seen that Muradov, already has stacked up 8 losses throughout his career. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to decide who I got in this matchup. One reason people might even pick a fighter with the OV at the end of his name is because you might be assuming that he's the grappler in this situation. But don't be fooled. All right, don't be fooled, guys. Muradov is a self-acclaimed striker, and I think we're going to see Muradov getting ragdolled in this fight. And ultimately, I think Khizriev defeats Muradov via rear naked choke in the second round. And yeah, he's just going to tire him out, grab a hold of him, and make him quit. Moving on up the card, we got Viviana Araujo versus Natalia Silva. And you might be thinking, damn, Natalia Silva's on a 10-fight winning streak. Easy pick, right? Wrong. It's still WMMA. So, again, you can basically flip a coin, as the MMA guru likes to, do that method for picking women's MMA fights. But nonetheless, if you look at the strength of schedule, Araujo has been mixing it up with the best of the best with matchups like the current champion of the division, Alexa Grasso, even though she had a loss over, even though she lost to Alexa. But she even has wins over people like Roxanne Metafari, Andrea Lee, Montana De La Rosa, and her most current win, Jennifer Maia. All notable wins. So long story short, I'm going with Araujo in this fight. I think she gets it done either by submission or, like most of her wins, unanimous decision. Either way, I got Araujo for the win. Moving on up the card, once again, we have Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikov, another OV name. Again, don't let it sway you. Okay, now I know Randy Brown was showboating and he got demolished by Jack Della Maddalena in his last about 2 fights ago, his last loss 2 fights ago. But understand Salikov is almost 40 years of age, and I just don't feel comfortable betting on a 40-year-old with wins against the same level of competition that Randy Brown has wins over. Like, let's be honest again here. This fight shit's a young man's game. And I don't mean don't go put all your money on an 18-year-old Raul Rosas Jr. or nothing, but a guy like Randy Brown, I think he can get it done in a competitive matchup against Salikov. I'm going Randy Brown to win by TKO in the second round or a close decision. Moving on up, the featured co-main event of the night. We have Renato Money Moicano coming back after healing from an injury to fight our favorite Crimson Chin, Drew Dober. If you follow Renato Moicano on YouTube, you could probably tell like fairly fast that Renato has a very good understanding of the fight game, and he's most definitely been putting in the work. And he can't wait to get an exciting win to capitalize on all the hype from his last post-fight interview speech where he's like, Moicano wants money. Like, we all just love that, right? And he's not stupid. He sees the comments. He's got his little Discord chat thing going on. Like, people are talking to him. They know he's figuring it out slowly but surely. I think Renato is about to capitalize on some of the hype that he's got going on right now. I don't think it's just hype. Moicano is a very good striker, very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. I mean, the only thing that he's got in front of him is a hard chin and a mean right hand in Drew Dober, right? So, Drew Dober is still like really technical on the feet and whatnot, but I don't see him doing what he did to Bobby Green with the overall MMA game that Renato Moicano brings. I don't think that it'll look like that. In fact, I could see Drew Dober winning some wild shots and getting caught with the right hook like he did against Matt Favola. Either way, I got Moicano winning by first or second round. It's kind of crazy to say it. I think it would be submission or knockout, but that's just the way that I think it's going to go. Like, I think Moicano is going to look to finish the fight any way that he can, whatever opens up to him first. If he catches Drew Dober slipping, he's going to catch him on the feet. If he's not out yet because he's got that hard chin of his and he just goes down, I could see Moicano jumping on him and looking for a choke or some type of submission. So, yeah, we're going to go Renato Moicano via first or second round submission or knockout. Moving on up the card to the main event of the night. All right. Now, to be honest, I thought they should have switched the main and co-main events, but it is what it is, right? We got Roman Dolidze facing off with Nasruddin Imavov, and to be honest, I've been thinking about this fight for a few weeks now, before I even did any fight study or any of the other fights, and my opinion still hasn't swayed for the OV. We're going with Roman Dolidze to get the job done, and by knockout in the second round. Just seeing the way Sean Strickland pieced Nasruddin Imavov, seeing how he pieced him up, and I just, it doesn't sit well with me, and I can see Roman Dolidze hitting him with similar shots and just putting his lights out, because even though he was able to take some of the shots from Sean Strickland and whatnot, I think there's a big power difference between Strickland and Dolidze, obviously, right? So if Dolidze hits him, with some of the shots that he got touched with Sean Strickland, Dolidze is gonna put him out of there. I mean, Dolidze even he's a great striker. He's even got wins against Phil Hawes, Jack Hermanson. Like, unless he's out there getting a pace pushed on him that I can only see Marvin Vettori doing to him, like in his last loss, then I don't see Roman losing this fight. I can see him hurting Imavov and putting him away quite easily, to be honest. Dolidze, second round knockout. Let's go. All right. Now, if you guys enjoyed my breakdown and predictions, please don't hesitate to smash that like button, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.